All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. This is Brian Jenkins. I'm with RunSignUp, and today this is part of the Endurance Event Education webinar series. Today we're going to be focusing in on RaceDay Go tools, and the most common questions we get, primarily this time of year, are around our check-in tool and bib assignment. So we're going to drill into that today and really focus into that. If you're new to this series, please feel free to submit questions. What we do is I'll go through kind of a pre-made presentation here, run you through everything that I plan to, and then I will take a look at your questions and do my best to answer anything I might have missed or is not clear. So feel free to submit those questions, and I'll get through as many of them as I can. Today's a little bit shorter presentation, so I likely should be able to get through all the questions. So just also wanted to point out we've got some upcoming additional webinars on our volunteer platform, and we should be announcing some additional kind of advanced webinars in the near future. So what I'm going to do is log into the RunSignUp admin dashboard. So I'm on the board of a superhero run put on by CASA, which is Court Appointed Special Advocates, and we're going to be utilizing our check-in software here in a couple weeks. So I thought what better way to demonstrate our RaceDay Go check-in tools than on a race that I'm planning to use them on myself. So once we get into the dashboard, what we're going to do is click on the race. Once we get into the race, we're going to specifically click on the section under Go RaceDay. So before I drill into the check-in software, I wanted to talk about some of the concerns that many of our race directors have is the deviation from norm. And so what that means, the deviation from norm means the way bibs have typically been assigned in the past has been primarily alphabetically, and then secondarily maybe by registration date. And we do have the ability to handle that in our system, and you could still use the check-in tool in place of, say, an Excel spreadsheet or printouts. So let's take a look at that. So under Go RaceDay, we would click on bibs and then assign bibs and chips. And then within the bib assignment tool, we've got the two primary functions here that I think people would be interested in. So let's say you wanted to go in and assign bib numbers alphabetically. So we would click on assign bib numbers, which is the second tile. We could set what event. So the 5K, we could set a starting bib number of 1, and then our policy for assigning bib numbers would be by last name. And if I do recommend checking the box for overriding existing bib numbers, unless you've gone through and manually assigned like bib number 1 and 10 and various numbers to special people within your race. So once you hit the assign bib numbers, a green bar will show up that it's successful, and then you'd be able to have your bib numbers assigned alphabetically for these two events, or we could do it for all 3 or just 1. So pretty easy to do. There isn't some advanced options for assigning bib numbers in descending order. I generally wouldn't recommend that because it's just generally confusing to people. And then assign to registrants and super events of their selected events too. I would probably reach out to us at RunSignUp if you had that special situation. So pretty easy, pretty quick. The other option, so under Go RaceDay bibs and assign bibs and chips, is you could assign bib numbers at registration time. So this is really popular with larger races, and the reason it's popular with larger races is that there's a kind of a movement for customized bibs, and those customized bibs are meaning like you have someone's name on the top of their bib. So that's kind of a trend right now, so we'll see some races go in here and do this. So what you can do is set up auto-assigned bibs, meaning so people as registering, they get, you know, say 1,001, and let's say we're only going to order 1,000 bibs, and if we happen to run out of those 1,000 bibs, our overflow for this race might be 5,001. So this is a little bit less common, but it is common in some of our larger races we work with where you can set up ranges by distance, and if you happen to run out of that range, you could overflow that. And if you needed to, you can share bib numbers with other events, as well as assign bib numbers to people who have registered. Now, it is important to note if you are sharing bib numbers with other events that you would still need to set the same range up here to share the bib ranges with the other events. And it does say that in the little subtext here. So those are kind of the most common ways to assign bib numbers. There are some less common ways, such as team bib assignment, like a relay team. You can import bib numbers into RunSignUp via a CSV file with registration ID and bib number. These are less common, so I don't want to spend too much time on them, but we do have some other things. And then the least common way to assign bib numbers is we do have a corral function where you could assign bib numbers off of estimated finish time. So that's a quick overview of bib assignment. If you were to utilize these tools, the most important thing to carry away is that this doesn't preclude you from being able to utilize the check-in software that we're going to get into, and you would just assign the bib numbers through one of these tools, and then you could use the check-in software, again, in place of like an Excel spreadsheet or printed sheets as an easy way to look at what a participant's bib number is. So moving on, under Go RaceDay, and then RaceDay check-in, what we're going to do is we're going to drill into the check-in app. Now, one of the first questions that I want to address that we get quite often is, I only have a laptop, can I utilize the check-in app? 100% yes. And we're going to go into some of those differences. The web check-in, this is our legacy check-in tool, so we probably have some customers still utilizing it. We generally don't recommend it to customers. We haven't fully legacied it because there are some instances where it might work a little bit better, specifically if you were trying to do dynamic team bib assignment, which is really rare. But what we're going to do is say, number one, 100% yes, if you've got laptops, you can definitely use our check-in app. It's just we needed to name it something different than what the web check-in is so we could differentiate it. So we're going to click on check-in app. And so now we're going to land on this page and we're going to start talking about some of these different settings that we have. So the first thing is that we have an iOS app, an Android app, and then we have runsignup.com/check-in. And so this is the laptop version. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. We're going to drill into that first, and then I'm going to show you kind of some screenshots of what the app looks like because I couldn't get really the phone demo working correctly. So you would decide what type of device that you're utilizing, whether that be an Apple device or an Android device or a laptop. And then below here, you would set up your shared password. So your shared password is what you're going to be asked when you want to get into your race. So you set up your shared password. I typically will put my password as a hint because I need to be able to see it in case I forget what it is, and only administrators can actually see this password hint. The next thing is that you can enable check-in, when do you want it to start and when do you want it to end. And this is one of the common errors that we run into. And if you're trying to test the check-in app, remember the check-in app needs to be enabled when you're testing it, not necessarily when you're planning to utilize it, say 2 or 3 weeks from now, or from when you're trying to test that. So I've had this open for a couple months because I've been playing around with it, getting prepared for my race here in a couple weeks. Now, I want to pause here because this is a common question we get. So when we scroll down to this web app presets, what we tend to see is that users of the Apple or iOS app or the Android app go through and spend their time configuring the app on their the app here, and these settings do not carry over to your tablet or phone. You actually have to do the configuration of your settings in the tablet or in the phone. These settings below are specifically if you're going to use runsignup.com/check-in. So that's a really key differentiation because you could spend all day setting these settings and they're not going to show up in the iOS or Android apps. So because this is a little bit easier to see for everyone, we're going to spend some time talking about some of these settings because there's some really cool settings within here. So first thing is we're going to look at the configuration options. So within the configuration options, you've got options like auto clearing of search, hiding imported registrants. This would be like hiding paper entries, hide checked-in participants. This is one that I don't like. I like to have my database, everyone in there, and just to flag whether they've been checked in or not, but you do have the capability to have the list kind of shrinking as you check people in. If you have a team event, you have the option to search by team name and search linked registrations. This is probably my personal favorite setting. So the idea of search linked registrations is that if a family were to sign up together, they likely would show up at check-in and wanting to gather all their bibs at the same time. So searching linked registrations allows you to hit a button and then pull up everybody that they checked in together. So super helpful in not having to look up everyone that family signed up together at one time individually. Allowing participants to be unchecked in. This is kind of a personal preference. Do you want to allow, especially if you're having volunteers work at your race, allow them to be unchecked in, and that's just personal preference. Barcode scanning, I'm not going to drill into that too much, but there is some capabilities within the app. If you wanted to plug in a USB reader, you could actually, in the USB reader, you could plug in a barcode scanner that could work off of printed out confirmations or potentially the phone, depending on the device. And so we're going to kind of ignore the printing and management and replacement options because those are specific to kind of a legacy app. So within the columns, we've got 3 columns: shown in table, shown during check-in, and editable during check-in. So the shown during table is what in the check-in table do you want shown. Shown during check-in is when you hit check-in, what's going to pop up. And then the final column is what is editable during the check-in process. So the settings I have are generally kind of what I recommend. So I have bib number checked across all 3 columns. I have payment details checked across all 3 columns. So payment details is really helpful because at this race, we're going to be using our sign-up app where people could sign up on a laptop and select cash as a payment option. So we need to know that they selected cash and then collect their cash and then assign their bib number. As we keep scrolling down, we may want to know, age and gender. We may want to know, and then probably the most common one is giveaway, which is, typically going to be their T-shirt. So what T-shirt did they select? And then further down, it's going to be registration add-ons. So if you're selling additional registration add-ons, you likely would want to know that if you're giving that to them on race day or at packet pickup. Then there's some other settings in here which may or may not be applicable. Feel free to turn different settings on or off. But these are kind of my best practices settings. One other thing to note is that you can have multiple presets if you so choose. So the idea of multiple presets might be you might have different fields for the kids race versus the adult race because you may not be assigning bib numbers for the kids race. But that's not super common, but it is a setting that we can support. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop over to RunSignUp.com/check-in. So when you get to RunSignUp.com/check-in, it's going to give you a notice about making sure not to log in or out of Google services. And so I'm going to say OK and hit go to my races. What we can do here is we can add a race. So in this case, I've already got my superhero race there. But so if I wanted to go to the check-in test race, I would look that up. I'd hit authenticate, I'd put in the password and then hit authenticate. And what this does is that this allows me into the check-in for this particular race. So once I've done that, it pops up the race. I can pick the preset, which was the CASA one that I was setting up earlier, and then I can hit check-in. Now what it's doing is right now it's asking me your information. So the idea of what asking your information is going to be a little bit later. We can actually look at check-in stats and check-in reports. So you could put in your name, or you could put in something like this. And so you can then report upon by a particular user. Some people like doing station 1, station 2, or et cetera, because you might have shifts of people coming in and out on the check-in app, and you just want to see how many people checked in at each particular station. So what just happened is that this is a relatively small database at 270 people, is that it loaded the database locally onto this, this browser, and we're ready to start checking people in. And at this point, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. So we've got a first name box, we've got a last name box, we've got a confirmation number, bib number, search, and so you can search by different fields. So if we type in Jenkins and we hit enter, so Brian signed up, and Laney signed up, and so we've got different participants all signed up. And if we wanted to check in Brian, so we could see, I've already got a bib number in here, I was playing around. I could give him a bib number and say he collected, we've collected Brian's cash, and then hit check in and save. And it's successfully checked in, and assign this bib number. So the training and rollout process, once you get into the CheckIn app, is pretty easy. The idea is that it is no different than what you're accustomed to on an Excel spreadsheet or paper. It's just the difference is that you can use a device to look people up, and it's going to pull them up. Now, I do want to call out the Register With button. So in these situations, so we're in clear, we can actually, let's scroll down and find somebody who's signed up together. Yeah. So we've got Marshy, Boswell, and Charlie Boswell. So we hit Registered With. We can actually see then that they signed up together. And likely, if Marshy walked up and wanted to pick up the bib for her and Charlie, we could easily do that because now we've got them both pulled up. So it's a really nice little feature that I personally like because this particular race has a lot of families. So what I was going to do now is I'm going to flip over to some screenshots, and they're a little bit out of order, but I wanted to show you guys some things within the app. So the process of loading up your race is very similar. So you would open up the CheckIn app, whether that's on Android or iOS. And so from there, what you would do is you would then search for your race. You would put in your authenticating password. And then what it's going to do is it's going to load your participant list. So we loaded our participant list. We can then see Megan at RunSignUp. And this red X here indicates that Megan is not checked in. So when we click on Megan's name, we can then see Megan's information. Again, this is configurable within the app, and I'm going to show you that in a second. We can see that it's Megan at RunSignUp, and she signed up for the 5K, and her bib number is 100, and when she registered, and etc. So then we can actually assign that bib number, and so in this case, we've assigned Megan bib number 100. And if you have races where you don't necessarily need to assign bib numbers, you could use the skip function. And once you complete the process, you can actually see that Megan at RunSignUp, nice green check, is now checked in. And then finally, to show you, and this isn't everything, but this is just to show you that if you drew into your settings on the race within the app, this is where you can actually set up your exact steps that you want to be shown or hidden, etc., by just toggling this blue arrow here or indicator that you have. These are the settings that you'd like to have enabled. And there's quite a number of them, and so you can set all these things up. So this is a quick overview of what I wanted to show everybody today. I'm expecting probably seeing some questions here, and then we do have some questions coming in. So if you do have questions, feel free to start pouring them in now. I'm going to start drilling through some questions. So the first question is that, is there a way to assign bibs in multiple ranges? So there is ways to assign bibs in multiple ranges. So let's say the 5K has a range of 1,000 to 2,000, and the 10K has a range of 2,001 to 3,000. You can definitely do that, as well as we have a secondary range where, so if let's say you ran out of bibs, you could actually set a secondary range of bibs in our system. So the next one is it's kind of the same question, so we'll skip over that one. So the next question, it says, Megan did not sign her waiver. What is the recommendation to remedy that situation? So let me look here. If Megan did not sign her waiver, there actually is a setting in the app where you can turn the CheckIn app around for the participant, and it will actually allow the participant to use their finger to sign that they agree to the waiver. So there is a method, and that's exclusive to the iOS or Android app, where someone could actually assign their waiver through the app. If you're going to be using runsignup.com/checkin, there is a method in RunSignUp to send out a notice to your users who have not signed their waiver. There is something in the system to do that. And so the next question, is this app to use to register people on RaceDay or during early packet pickup? So the CheckIn app is specifically designed to just look up participants and assign bib numbers and check participants in. We have a sign-up app, which I didn't cover today, and I have covered in a separate webinar. And that's in sign-up app, and I will show you where that is within the system. It's under Go RaceDay, and then RaceDay registration and sign-up app. And similar to the CheckIn app, there's an iOS version, an Android version, and a web version. So you'd actually have people on RaceDay or at packet pickup sign up using the sign-up app, and then you could actually see them in the CheckIn app and see whether they checked, whether they paid with credit card or cash or check, and then collect their money if they paid with cash or check and assign them a bib. So the next question is there a limit to ranges? There is a limit of 2 ranges. We do not support more than 2 ranges within a single event. So the next question is that the check-in process for participants and volunteers. We don't per se really have a check-in process for volunteers. We have gotten that request. We're still kind of trying to figure out like how to best do that. But if you would like to, you actually could import your volunteers into an event in RunSignUp called Volunteer, like you would add that. And then you utilize the check-in software. I realize that's not ideal, but that's probably the best solution that we currently have. So the next question, this is a great question. I appreciate Amanda Franklin asking this question. Can we have this app running on 3 devices all at the same time? 100% yes. So the only issue you would have if you're checking in multiple people or checking in on multiple devices could be if one of those devices were to go offline and not sync back to RunSignUp, you could have check-ins that have occurred that are not synced back to RunSignUp. So what you'd want to do is get that device back online and then get it to sync back to RunSignUp by hitting the Sync Now button. So the next question isn't necessarily kind of applicable for this particular webinar. Yeah, so the next question is, can you confirm that QR codes will be able to be used within the Android or Apple app? Yes, that is not something I covered. I apologize. So you can get into a super efficient function within the check-in app. The check-in app has an option where you can, it pops open the camera on that device, and if participants walk up with their phone or printed out QR code, they can actually scan that, and by scanning that, it will automatically pull up that person, and then you're ready to check them in. And some of our advanced users do this. One of the things, if you really wanted to push the QR code, because this drastically can speed up the check-in process, but it does add some technical complications, is that you can actually use our email system and send an email out the week of the event, with the information like your participant guide or reminders for your participants with the QR code inside of it, and then call out to your participants. If you've got a reminder email or your confirmation email, your QR code is in there, and you can stand in this special line where you could have just one line where all they're doing is just using the camera and scanning people's QR codes. Now, it is important to note, no different than the airport, you want people's brightness, if they're using their phone, where the QR code is, to be high, because that's going to be the easiest way to read that and going to help the process. So the next question is there 2 ranges per race? No, it's 2 ranges per event. So if you have, a 5K and a 10K, you could have 2 ranges for the 5K and 2 ranges for the 10K. So the next question is there an app for RunSignUp that is for administrators? We do not have an app that replicates the admin section of RunSignUp, like where you could set up coupon codes or send emails out or things like that. You do need to log into runsignup.com. Now, you can use runsignup.com and manage your race from your phone, but we do not have an app particular to managing your race. in that particular way. So the next question is that can we use these apps on a laptop? Absolutely. So right on this page here that we're on, so you could use an iOS app, the Android app, or there is a web version, which is runsignup.com/checkin. So we support all three different types. So this question is in regards to having people sign up with cash and paid or paid checks. You can absolutely allow people, if you were using like our sign-up app, to pay with cash, and then the check-in system, there's a payment details option that you would enable that would tell you that, hey, they paid with cash and you need to collect an amount due. So this question is that can you show how to assign bib numbers to relay teams? So yeah, so under Go RaceDay, bibs and assign bibs and ships, what you can do is you go down to the very bottom one, you hit set up group team bib assignment, and then you would set your starting number and your ending number, and you can pick the particular type, like you could set this for male teams, female teams, etc., and you just run it, and then you're off and running. So it's a pretty quick process to get bibs assigned on a team basis or relay team basis. So the next question is, can you use a QR code to manage volunteers also? Not really. There's not a QR code that is generated when someone signs up to volunteer. There would be a way to kind of work around it if you imported your volunteers into an event and then emailed volunteers a QR code from our system, but that likely would be more complicated than most people would want to go through that process. So I would say no, but technically yes. So this question is, if you have more than one event in a race, can you check them in without closing the event and opening another one to check one in? Yeah, so to summarize this question, it's saying, like, let's say we have a 5K and a 10K and a kids race. Do you have to have a different check-in line or different check-in open for each event? No. You could do within the check-in app, you could limit by event. I don't see that real often unless there's something really special about one particular event. So it'll search across all events. So if someone signs up for the kids race and another person signed up for the 5K that walks up, it doesn't matter. You can just search for them. So I think that knocked out most of the questions, and we've got one question in here that I think we'll probably need to reach out to someone directly. But is there any other questions that are coming in? I don't see any. So thank you guys for staying. What's going to happen is that we record every single webinar. So if you got in late, what we're going to do is we're going to send you a copy of this webinar, and we're going to also send you a follow-up email with some resources about the check-in system, so that you can kind of step-by-step walk through what we walked through today, and you'll have some nice takeaways from this process. Again, this is Brian Jenkins with RunSignUp. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to come to the Endurance Event Education webinar series, and look for the email here shortly. Thank you guys. Have a great day.